Hi and welcome. In this video we're going to be taking a look at creating custom brushes. Now Photoshop does ship with a lot of great brushes for us to use, but what if the brush we need is just not there? Well, that's where custom brushes come in. We can create our own custom brush from any of the existing ones, any of our own artwork or images. Now in this tutorial we're going to design a very simple brush, and you'll be amazed how quick and simple it is. Now if you're a fan of the printed page, I have done a printed tutorial for you, and here it is. All you've got to do, go onto my website, LiveLink Training, and download it. Right, okay, well let's get on. And don't forget, if this is your first time with LiveLink Training, please visit my website, and if you scoot to the bottom of any page, just give this link a click here to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That will be really helpful. Thank you very much. Let's get on. Okay, step one. We want to create a new document, and this is going to be the document where we can actually design and create our brush. Now let's start by creating a new Photoshop document. Now you can do this by clicking on the Create New here on the Start screen, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control and N or Command and N if you're on a Mac. I'll just click the Create New and it'll open up the new document window for me. Right, and here I can design the document size that I want. Now what I'm going to do is go for over here. I'm going to put, well, you can see I designed the one before on this one. I'm going to put 200 in the width and set this to pixels, and then in the height 200, and again we'll leave that to pixels, so we'll get a square document basically for this brush. Resolution, just leave that as 72. Color, and we'll leave that to white, and we'll leave it to 8-bit. And that's everything we need. We're just going to click Create, and we'll end up with a square box. So I'm just going to Control and plus just to zoom in a little bit for that. Now Photoshop allows us to create brushes as big as 5000 by 5000 pixels. Now big isn't always beautiful. Painting with very large brushes can slow, it takes an awful lot of computing power and resources, and so what it'll do is it'll slow down your system, make it very sluggish. Now the brush size you start with will become your default size. Now the brushes that we create are pixel based, which means that they work just like images. We can make them smaller and they'll remain fairly sharp looking, but if we make them bigger than the default size, then they will start to pixelate. So really the challenge is to create a brush that's suitable for your needs. Now the 200 pixels brush that we will use is normally pretty good, but for you it may take a little bit of trial and error to get the size right for you, depending on what kind of document you're working on. Right, step 2, let's select the brush tool. Now let's not reinvent the wheel here, so we'll create our new brush using one of Photoshop's built-in brushes. Now first we need to select the brush tool. Now we can do that from the tool panel here. We can click on that. We've now got that selected. Or we can use the keyboard shortcut of B on your keyboard to quickly select it. So we click on the brush tool and we select the top one. Step 3 is to choose a small round brush. Now with the brush tool selected, we can click this little down arrow up here. This is the little preview of what the brush actually is going to look like. But if we click this little down arrow here, it'll allow us to choose a small round brush. Now we can move the size, make that what we like. I'm just going to go into my general brushes folder, and I'm going to click on like soft round, and it's bringing up like a 19 pixel and 0% hardness, so it's a soft brush. And then when I've done that, I'm going to press the return or the enter key just to close that panel down. And you'll see now I've got like a 19 pixel, and this is the diameter of the brush, so I've got a 19 pixel soft brush selected now. Step 4, we need to set the foreground colour to black, because all brushes paint with the foreground colour, and we want this to be black. There's a very quick way to make this happen. Now the foreground colours down here, we've got the foreground colour and the background colour. We're not really interested in the background colour, so at the moment this brush is going to be painting with white, which is not really a lot of good. Now you can use these toggles at the top, but they are a little bit fiddly to get hold of. So this one is to reset the colours to default. So if I click on that, it'll reset them to black and white or white and black. And in this case, it's white and black. So this little bendy arrow here is the toggle. And what this will do is it'll swap them round. It'll place the white in where the black is on the background colour, and it'll move the black to the foreground colour. So if I click on that, you can see it'll just toggle them round. But a quicker way is to use a keyboard shortcut. So I'll put that back as it was. And I'll just change the colour just to show you. So we'll have a different colour in the background colour. So now if I want to reset them to black and white quickly, what I can do is I can first press the D key on the keyboard. And what this does is this resets to black and white or white and black. Now we've set to the right colour as it is, but I'll just show you that the other one, if this was the wrong way round, so if we had say black in the background, then what we could do is press the X key. And what the X key does, I'm just pressing it now, it toggles the foreground colour and the background colour. So you just toggle it until you get black as the foreground colour, which is what we want. Step 5, let's paint some lines in the document window. We'll just make a brush. But it doesn't have to be anything really, you can really go arty if you want. I'm just going to paint some lines. So I'll paint a line, and then I'll use the square brackets to make the brush smaller, and then I'll make it a bit bigger, and then a bit bigger. So I'll just paint some random sort of lines just so we've got a really higgledy-piggledy brush, as they say in Barnsley. You don't get much higgledier than this. And we'll make it a bit smaller, and we'll do that. You could do anything you wanted in it, it doesn't really matter. So we've now got a 200 pixel square with a load of lines on it, our artwork, whatever that may be. And it should look a bit like that. Okay, step 6, we're going to create the new brush. Now to create a new brush, we've got a flattened version of this here, which is what we need. And then we're going to go to the edit menu, and we're going to do define brush preset. That's going to come up, and you can see you've got a little view here of your brush itself, and we'll just call it, I'll call it lines, because that's what it is, a set of lines. And then we'll click OK. And then you'll see that you actually get the brush, because that's what we've just made and that's where it's selected. So we can actually make this bigger and smaller with the square brackets. There we go, make it a bit smaller. And then what I'll do is I'll just clear this. So I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut just to paint it with white again, of Control and Backspace. And then you can see I can stamp a brush by just clicking, and I can click and drag to make a wiggly brush, and I can change the size again and make a smaller brush, and we'll change the size again and we'll make a big brush. So you can see there's the brush that we've created now. Now where is this brush? Well, if we actually go up now and we click on this little down arrow again, which is what we did before, you'll see now that the actual brush itself is the bottom one. So you can scroll all the way up and all the way down, but it actually puts it as the last brush. And it selects it for you when you've made it. So if you wanted to select something else, you can select something else. If you want to select your brush, you go right down to the bottom and you can see my lines brush. I click on it, make it the size I want it, and then I can draw with it. But you see, yeah, it's really, because it's quite a big, 200 pixels, when I do it that big, it's quite a big brush. So it's actually slowing the computer right down at the minute. Okay, but you can see where I'm coming from. So to actually find the brush, you go up to the brush picker palette, and here it is right down at the bottom. Well, that's it now. We've created a wonderful custom brush, and it probably won't be amazingly useful. The good news is that now we've created a brush tip, we can change and control how the brush behaves as we paint with it using Photoshop's Brush Dynamics, and this is found in the main brushes panel. So if we go up to it's right next door, it's this little icon here, and if we click on that, it'll open up the Big Brother brushes panel. And here it is, and this is all the good stuff that we can do to the brush. Now we can start off at the top. We've got the brush tip shape, and this is all the brush tips that we've made. Now ours is in here now. It's brush 198 that I've just made, and this is what it looks like down at the bottom. Now let's just clear this again. I'll do Control and A because we've still got white as the background colour, so we can see the brush. Right, now this is what it looks like here if you just stamp it down. So let me do it a bit smaller. So if we just stamp it down, that's what you get. If you click and drag it, then this is what you get. So we can do that. So that's what happens. And now we're going to try and change the dynamics of this, how it actually works. Now if you were using a paintbrush, it lay down like a continuous stroke of paint. Now that's not how Photoshop works. Photoshop stamps a copy of itself over and over again as you drag the mouse. Now if the stamps are far apart, you'd see the spacer between the stamps, much like a dotted line. When the stamps are really close together, it creates the illusion of a seamless brush stroke. And generally the latter is the desirable option. And we can control the spacing between the stamps with the appropriately named spacing option, which is down at the bottom here. So if I was to increase the spacing, so I'll just drag that over and you'll see what's happening to the little preview there. So I'm now at a point where if I drag this, there will be big spaces in between. So we'll just do that. You can see now that there's big spaces all in between those. But if we drag it back and have a small spacing, then when I click and drag, it looks a little bit like a continuous brush stroke. Okay, let's clear our little pad off with Control and Backspace. And we'll have now a look at the shape dynamics. Now here it's got a tick in it, and it's a particularly weird thing. I don't know whether it's a bug or what, but you can put a tick in it to select it, but it doesn't give you the options to be able to change it. What you've got to do is double click on the actual name, and that will bring you up the sliders that control the shape dynamics. Now all I'm going to look at in this one is something called the jitter. Now what on earth is the jitter? I've heard of the jitterbug, and that was a dance where you used to go crazy. And I suppose this is in a similar manner. Jitter really means random. So what it's saying is we've got a size jitter here. So what it's going to do is it's going to change the tip of the brush in a random manner to make it different sizes. So I'll bring that up a little bit. And then we'll have angle jitter. And angle jitter is going to make the angle that it is random. So it's going to change the angle every time it stamps down. So, and you can see what's happening down at the bottom. You see it's all the edges are now sticking out because we're rotating it round. The roundness jitter, well, it's not exactly a roundness brush, so I don't think that's going to have much effect on it. But here we can see now, let's have a look at our new brush. You'll see it's at a bit of an angle now, the preview. And if I click and drag now, I've got like a weird spiky brush. Yeah, I quite like that actually, yeah, quite like that. And we can make it bigger again with the square brackets, or we can make it smaller with the square brackets. There we go. Now obviously this is just a taste of the amount of control the brushes panel gives us over the behaviour of us brushes, but in just a few steps. Now we've managed to design and create a brand new custom Photoshop brush from scratch, and we've gotten a glimpse of how powerful the various dynamic brush controls in the brushes panel really are. Now there's much more to the powerful brush panel which we'll be investigating in more depth in a future tutorial. Well, that's it. I do hope you found it useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, or even better, leave me a comment in the more area under the video. And please click the subscribe button and help me grow my Photoshop learning community. And just before we go, don't forget, there is a printed version of this tutorial. All you've got to do is go into my website, livelinktraining.com, and download it. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the very next video. Bye for now.